On the afternoon of December 7th, 1872, the Canadian brigantine De Grazia was traveling off the coast of Azores Islands near Portugal when the helmsman spotted something peculiar. Captain David Morehouse was called, and upon further inspection there appeared to be a ship about 6 miles or 9.7 kilometers away moving erratically toward the De Grazia. Noticing the ship's odd movements and suspecting the ship to be in trouble, Captain Morehouse ordered his ship to move in closer. As the De Grazia approached the mysterious ship, Captain Morehouse realized that he could see no one on deck, and when the ship signaled to come aboard, there was no reply. To investigate further, First Mate Oliver Devoe and Second Mate John Wright boarded the ship and established that this was the Mary Celeste. What Devoe, Wright, and even Captain Morehouse witnessed that day left them with more questions than answers. 32 days earlier, on November 5th, the Mary Celeste was in New York Harbor, captained by Benjamin Briggs, bound for Genoa, Italy. Captain Briggs was no stranger to the sea. The entire Briggs family, in fact, had a long maritime connection, with Benjamin himself spending most of his life aboard ships. By 1871, Captain Briggs had made a name for himself and was well respected in the shipping community, but around the same time he had grown tired of being away from his new family, and, at the urging of his brother, almost gave up the sea entirely to buy a hardware store with him. However, his doubts were stifled when he purchased a share of the Mary Celeste and renovated the captain's quarters to house his family. After the renovations to the ship were completed, the ship was loaded with a cargo of 1,701 barrels of alcohol, and Captain Briggs was eager for the maiden voyage to commence. As the ship left New York, weather conditions deteriorated, and the ship was forced to anchor just off Staten Island for another 2 days. After the delay, the Mary Celeste sailed out on the Atlantic. As the crew of the De Grazia continued their investigation, Devoe and Wright, in addition to finding the entire ship devoid of anyone, they also noticed many irregularities with the ship, including the sails only being partially set and in bad condition. Much of the rigging was damaged, the ship's compass's glass cover had been broken, and there was about 3.5 feet of water in the bottom of the ship. Despite all of this, it was determined that whatever had happened, the crew left in an orderly fashion. The ship's daily log was also found. The final entry, dated November 25th at 8 a.m., 9 days before the De Grazia found the ship, reported the ship's position as off the coast of Santa Maria Island, 400 nautical miles from where the De Grazia first encountered the Mary Celeste. It was decided to bring the Mary Celeste with the De Grazia 600 nautical miles to Gibraltar. Captain Morehouse divided the already small crew of 8 between the De Grazia and the Mary Celeste. As the two ships arrived in Gibraltar, the court hearings began to get to the bottom of what exactly happened to the Mary Celeste. The hearings were conducted by Attorney General of Gibraltar, Frederick Solly Flood. He ordered a full inspection of the ship, and came to the conclusion that there was evidence of foul play based on scratches on the hull of the ship he believed came from a sharp implement, and red stains on the captain's sword. He determined that the crew had gotten into the cargo of alcohol, and, in a fit of drunken frenzy, had killed Captain Briggs and his family, and when they had realized what they had done, they fled the ship in the only lifeboat, and suffered an unknown fate. However, when it was determined that the stains on the captain's sword were in fact not blood, the scratches were deemed simply to be natural wear and tear, and with not much more concrete evidence to support this theory of mutiny and murder, Flood had no choice but to let the ship go after it was determined that no conclusive answer could be reached. After the hearings in Gibraltar, the ship headed back to New York, but the damage was already done. Talk of murder, collusion, and foul play had already made its way around the world. The new owners of the ship tried to turn a profit, but her reputation preceded her, and by 1884 was under a new captain, Gilman C. Parker. It was in November of that year that Captain Parker filled the Mary Celeste with worthless cargo and overinsured it for $30,000, or $900,000 today, sailed to Port-au-Prince, and deliberately ran the ship into a well-known coral reef, wrecking it beyond repair. This insurance fraud plan did not go as expected for Captain Parker. At the time, a crime of this magnitude carried with it the death penalty. But the jury could not come to a consensus, and instead of having an expensive retrial, he was ordered to pay back the insurance money and was let go. Nevertheless, Captain Parker's reputation was ruined, and he died in poverty 3 months later in mid-1885. Although the official cause of the disappearance was undetermined, speculation was rampant. From the more reasonable explanations of natural phenomena like a waterspout or a sudden submarine earthquake, to the more outlandish theories of an explosion in the ship or a giant octopus attack. As time passed, the story of the Mary Celeste became more and more sensationalized, culminating in the most influential retelling in 1884 when a 25-year-old Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a short story about the ship. The story changed many details, such as changing the captain's name from Briggs to Tibbs, it sailed from Boston to Lisbon, that the ship was carrying passengers, and changing the name of the ship to the Marie Celeste. Although Doyle had not expected his story to be taken seriously, the story was, for the majority of the population, taken as fact. Many more people were convinced by a plausible literary hoax of the 1920s, perpetrated by Irish writer Lawrence J. Keating, presented as a survivor story of John Pemberton. This one told a complex tale of murder, madness, and collusion with the De Grazia. It included basic errors, such as using Conan Doyle's name, the Marie Celeste, and misnaming key personnel. Nevertheless, the story was so convincingly told that the New York Herald Tribune wrote on July 26, 1926, "It is truth beyond dispute." One of the more outlandish theories is that of an earthquake causing the cargo of alcohol to release noxious gas in the hold, and, with rising fears of explosion taking place, Captain Briggs may have ordered the ship to be abandoned. This theory is supported by the fact that the hatches were displaced, suggesting either an inspection or an attempted airing took place. But this theory was thoroughly debunked in 2006 when University College chemist Andrea Sella built a model of the Mary Celeste's hold, and, using butane gas, he created an explosion that looked quite damaging, but contrary to expectation, there was no fire damage in the replica. The Mary Celeste was not the first recorded case of a ship being found strangely deserted on the high seas. Rupert Gold, a naval officer and investigator of maritime mysteries, lists other such occurrences between 1840 and 1855. Whatever the truth of these stories, it is the Mary Celeste that is remembered. The ship's name, or the misspelled Marie Celeste, has become fixed in people's minds as synonymous with inexplicable desertion.